off is that it's one thing for adults to say this is what works, but we actually have youth to give their opinion on the materials because it's targeted for 10 to 14-year-olds. And I'll tell you, I do not know what 10 to 14-year-olds like. I was like, I think they're gonna like the band's Warped Tour. And they're like, no, that is not cool anymore. Like, ska is out. And so we have actual youth that are here to talk about it and say how they would share it with their friends. So I'll let Kent take it over.
Awesome. This is going to be the funnest part of your day, I promise you, since we get to hear from youth. Someone, I think Commissioner Barnes said earlier, nothing about us without us. This is why youth are here and why they were part of this campaign from the beginning. So I would like to, I'm going to shift over and I would like to invite our 6 young people to join me at the table and we'll do some questions. Everybody hear me on this one? Cool, thank you. So yes, we really wanted to take this opportunity, it was Jamie's idea to have us spend some time not only sharing the campaign with you today, but also hearing a little bit of folks that maybe have the finger on the pulse of their communities a little bit more about this campaign. And so it's my privilege to introduce 6 amazing young people that we've been fortunate to either partner with already or get to know today or through our partners in this part of the state to share some information. So what I would like to do is start by doing some introductions. So I'll have you introduce yourself, your name, pronouns, your age, what school you attend and what community you live in. And then the last part of that is how you would fill your world with good. And so I can start and maybe model this. So I'm Kent. My pronouns are he, him. I am an age undisclosed, but I will tell you I have a 13, an 18, and a 21-year-old. I'm sending one off to school and to college on Monday. I live in Broomfield, and I fill my world with good by outdoor swimming in lakes and stuff. So I'm going to turn over. We'll start with Michaela.
Do I just talk?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So my name is Michaela Brennan. My pronouns are she and her. I am 15 years old and I attend Delta High School in the city of Delta, Colorado. So how I fill my world with good is mainly just trying to look at the light in people, you know, just instead of focusing on the things that break us apart as a community, just more focused on the things that bring us together, you know. So that's all I have.
Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Kennedy Stewart, 13. My pronouns are she, her. I attend Titan Academy, and I live in Fruita, Colorado. And the way I fill my world with good is I try to pick the right people I surround myself with. It just makes me who I am.
Hi, my name is Lella Young. I am 15. I am homeschooled through Vision Charter Academy. And the way I try to fill my world with good is I really just try to be a positive influence on the world around me and share the gospel through dance and on my social media platforms.
My name is Akelia Calkins, but most people call me KK. My pronouns are she, her, and I go to Palisade High School. I'm 16, but I'm from Grand Junction. And I fill my world with good through music. I play saxophone, and I'm in the mind train band at my school. And I feel like that performance and that art spreads a lot of good and joy in people's lives, especially mine. So, yeah.
My name is Ella Zimmerman. I am 12 years old. I go to Centennial Middle School. I am from Montrose, Colorado. My pronouns are she, her, and the way I spread good in my world is just being kind to everyone.
My name is Violet Offit. I attend Columbine Middle School in Montrose, Colorado as a 6th grader. And how I make my world a better place is I play the flute and make small acts of kindness.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you. It's a great intro. I've got a series of questions, and we're going to have a couple people answer different ones as we go along. But let's talk a little bit about the resources that are out there for youth your age when it comes to substances and other things. So I'm going to ask, maybe to start with, where do you currently get information about prescription pill misuse or opioids or even Narcan or naloxone? I'm interested in some of the ways that already, prior to this campaign, you might be accessing that kind of information. So maybe I'll start down there with Michaela, and then I know Kennedy and Lela and Violet had a comment on this one.
Yeah, so where I usually get information on these type of subjects, like last year, Lyndall Young, she was partnered with Rise Above Colorado and came into my health and wellness class, and she taught a little lesson called Not Prescribed. So that was a really nice little lesson that I got from her, and she really helped me and my peers understand drug abuse and all those other subjects.
The ways I currently am hearing about this is usually it's one of my parents. When we do our highs and lows of the day at dinner, somebody is sharing something about it that they've heard or information that they've seen. And I also hear after following around my mom and her coworkers at all the events and tables she does, I get to learn about that. So.
I also follow my mom, Lyndall Young, around to events and help her volunteer through Mesa County Opioid Response Group.
There's some folks doing some awesome work in this community, and we're very fortunate to be partnering with them and their kids too. So Violet, go ahead.
I get my information from schools and other websites that they provide us with.
Great. So online media is important too, right? And that's certainly something we understand and where youth are, and that's where we want to make sure that we're getting that information too. So I'm going to I'll ask Michaela, what did you like? You had a couple of days. We gave them a more sneak peek than you got of the campaign. What did you like about the Connect Effect website, and what things in sort of the content might you share with your peers?
Yeah, so what I really liked about the Connect Effect website is that, it used Colorado youth. It wasn't just actors and all that stuff, but, overall it's also creatively designed to catch the attention of people like us and, teens and my peers. So, through that attention, they're able to spread the goodness and, just spread awareness on the subject.
Awesome, thanks. And so maybe I'll turn this one to Lela and Akelia, just thinking about the takeaways from the ads. And we only saw one, there's 3 of them on there, we left you the link there of some of those with different pieces of content. What were the most important takeaways from you?
I thought the most encouraging takeaway that I got from the ads was that not as many kids are using as you think they are.
Awesome. So it's kind of that gap of misperception that started making you think, maybe that's not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
I agree for sure. I feel like with Rise Above, we've definitely learned and talked about that subject a lot, about the minding the gap of the perception versus the knowledge. But I also think that the incentive and the enticing part that caught my attention to the ad was learning to save a life, like that quote, because I feel like it is very scary going to high school and wondering, are your friends using? Could they overdose from it? And just knowing what tools and resources you have I really think that's a great thing for kids to know, and that's really eye-catching.
Yeah, so it's being able to do something about it. Obviously, I think you guys were saying that being able to be actionable with this information, and that you could save a life and make an impact that way. Ella, my question's for you about just creative places where you think these materials could be shared. Obviously, we got stacks of them out there, so tell folks where you think it would be most beneficial to get some of these materials, or where you would want to see them.
I would want to see them in like a drugstore like CVS, in schools, just like everywhere.
Yeah, so public places, right? So that both parents and young people can access them. All right, awesome, that's great. It's good feedback for us. All right, so I want to just turn our attention a little bit to one of the stats that you saw, the AG previewed that earlier this morning too, that data point about 87% that would try to stop a friend from using a pill that might contain fentanyl. And so the question, I want to broaden that a little bit more, and Violet, maybe I'll start with you. Like, how do you do that? How do you have conversations that help you keep your friends safe? What does that look like for you in your life?
So for me, sometimes I bring it up like short, very short, and be like, these are the dangers, you shouldn't do that, all playfully, and it actually makes a big impact.
So you feel like you have an honest relationship where people would listen and your friends would listen to each other, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's great. Kennedy, just when we think about sharing health information like this, how do you share content like this or topics, whether it's substance use or mental health or other things? How do you share health information? What do you find the best way to do that is?
Whenever I see posts or something on any of my platforms, I have the ability, really anybody has the ability to like take a screenshot of it or repost it yourself, so then everybody can see it, as your friends and family and all that, and like just the community, everybody can see it, to read it themselves and like be able to repost it, so.
That's awesome, the ability, like you're comfortable and willing to share on your behalf or with other friends in that space. That takes a lot of courage too, right? But when you're sharing stuff that you believe in, obviously it matters enough to do it. So kudos to you for doing that, that's awesome. So Lala, my question for you, how would you share a concern with a friend that you think might be using substances, having that really difficult conversation when you think, we're right at that point of somebody maybe experimenting?
Like encourage them to use Safe to Tell or talk to a trusted adult or parent.
That's great. So the resources are out there. Do you think a lot of people are aware of Safe to Tell and resources like that?
I think because of this new Connect Effect website, I feel like it's now like showing them, especially because it's like going to be in schools and stuff, that they will start to learn more about like Safe to Tell, and then they have that as a resource.
That's awesome. Hopefully you all know about that as a resource. It is one where we're wanting to, in the website, you'll see there's linkages to a number of different resources like that, including Colorado Crisis Services, I Matter for mental health, and so that there are other resources out there for youth that hopefully we can use this platform to connect young people to. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. All right, I'll turn our attention a little bit to the topic of Narcan. We've talked about it a little bit. There's references in the ads to the ability to use Narcan and the opportunity that we all have in that space. Kaylee talked about a little bit about making a difference. So Kaylee, my question is back for you again. Do you know where Narcan's available in your community if it were needed? And community, school, where would you go?
Well, for me personally, I really love this website. It's called End Overdose, and you can get a training online of how to, what's the word? Administer the Narcan. But also on the website at the bottom, there's a QR code of where to get it in your community, and it will show you the different prices for different drugstores. And me and my mom found that a little bit ago, so I thought that was definitely.
Yeah, it's coming over the counter for those of you that don't know that, but then obviously there's other access points in communities and finding that, and because it's different in every location, right? But it's good so that the awareness, and we're hopefully building awareness of that being out there. So next question's for, so Ella and Viola, this one's for you too. Where would you like to see Narcan kits be available in your community?
I would really like to see them like maybe in school or in a store, just everywhere like in the community and the public.
Awesome. Viola, what would you add?
I would like to see them in the nurse's office and in teachers' classrooms and first aid kits if they have them.
Do you know that they're there now, or is that kind of, this is a hope, but you don't know that they're there yet?
I don't know that they're there yet.
Yeah. And this is a conversation, we've been having conversations in the last 2 days about how these get into schools and who can have them and where. But I think what we're hearing from you all is just knowing that they're there and that they're available, and that you would know how to access somebody to be able to help in those situations, and that it's not somewhere locked behind closed doors, that it's available. And if we start thinking about that mentality of it being a part of first aid, and it's as available, somebody else said it in an earlier session about with heart attacks, and that we have defibrillators and AED devices available. Could we package this all together and be in the same spot? So I'm going to come back to Akalia and Michaela on this next question. What do you think about teens training your peers on how to carry and how to use and then carry naloxone?
So I think that's a lot of pressure to put on the shoulders of a young teen or a young adult. But through being trained in a classroom by an adult how to use Narcan, I think would give me and my peers a lot more confidence to act in a situation where we might have to help someone in need of Narcan. So.
Awesome.
You and I had talked about this last weekend, but I feel like if a teenager were to come up to me and tell me about this, it is a medication, so I would be a little bit worried. And see how trustworthy it is. I think that it would be good for teens to be talking about it, so it's planting that seed, because a lot of kids in my area have no idea what Narcan even is. So I think definitely planting that seed of what this is. However, I think the training should definitely be adults, because then these kids are actually getting real trusted training, and you could even get like a certificate or something.
Yeah, so I think there's, what I'm hearing from y'all is that it is a lot of pressure, obviously, but you all want to be prepared, you want to be able to help folks, but that we as adults also need to kind of work side by side with you and being able to be part of that solution in some of the training, so that you feel like you have the tools and the confidence. That's great, thank you guys for sharing. All right, it's the toughest conversation, and that's the conversation between parents and parents, guardians, trusted adults, and youth. So this is pro tip time for y'all in the audience. I want to ask you all what things you would like adults to know in this sort of topic and field. So let's start with Violet and then Michaela. What do adults need to know about teen access to drugs right now? What would you want these folks to know?
What they need to know about teen access to drugs, it's not just someone in an alleyway, hey, you want this? It's usually like a friend.
So don't assume that, don't assume that it's just the typical drug dealer, the access points can come from a variety of places, and it's certainly true in the case of pills. It's great, thanks Violet. Yeah, Michaela.
So in general, what I think adults and the parents need to know is that, we aren't in the world that they grew up anymore, like we aren't sneaking into dark alleyways to get drugs, overall, we're able to access fentanyl and all these other pills through the touch of a screen. So really, our drug dealers are in our pockets, social media apps like TikTok and Snapchat make the whole process so much easier for us to have access to these substances. So.
All right, that's a tip for tomorrow's session, right? We're going to be talking about the social media access piece and the study that the AG's office did, and it comes from evidence just like what Michaela's talking about and the risks that are out there. So responsible social media use, but knowing that it's there, right? So we've got to give you all tools to cope with that and make those healthy choices, right? Okay, so that's a dose of reality, if you weren't already aware of that. All right, Kennedy, what makes it easiest for you to have or want to have a conversation with a trusted adult? How do they best sort of open that door?
Personally, I like to be talked to the way that they know I'm going to understand it, because if I have a question, I'm going to ask it.
So I just like to be talked to as if, sometimes not as if I was just a little kid. I like to be talked to the way being older and just assuming that I'm gonna understand it, because I want to be able to know. Because if I'm gonna have a question, then I'm gonna ask you it so I can understand better the conversation.
Awesome. I'm going to take your the high and low dinner time tip. That's a good pro tip. I'm going to try that at home. But that's a great way to open conversation in a way that's non-threatening. So that's great too. All right. So Kennedy, I'm going to stay with you, and then I'm also going to ask Akalia this one. What do you wish the adults who care about you knew in order to make having a conversation easier or better?
It's sort of kind of the same as the last question. It's pretty similar. I like to be talked to as if I'm gonna understand as if I was older. Knowing that you can tell me that, it's okay to tell me. It's not like I'm a little kid and I'm not gonna understand it.
Awesome. Be honest. Yeah.
I think that what you guys have talked about over this course of the day is not using scare tactics, because saying don't do drugs isn't going to do anything. But I think educating your children and letting them know, here's what it is, here's what it does, here's what you should do if you do try to call me. Having that connection with your parent and knowing that I'm not going to tell you how to parent, but you don't want that judgment of being terrified to tell your mom that, Mom, I did something, and then end up losing your life over it. And I also think that having a conversation would be better if it was normalized for younger kids to be learning about this stuff like you guys are doing, because then also you can build a connection with your parents earlier on before it's too late, and then you just are too scared.
Yeah, so the trust, the earlier you establish that, the better, right? That's great. All right, questions this one's for Violet and for Lela. What do you value in the conversations, good quality conversations that you have with parents or trusted adults? Violet, I'll start with you.
What I value in conversations with trusted adults and parents is that they will respect you and actually put you as a human being, not just a little baby.
Shout out to the Boys and Girls Clubs who obviously do that every day and create that environment for young people like Ella and Violet too. So, okay, Lela.
What I value is being a good listener and really just being open and understanding.
Simple. Hard to do, but simple, right? All right, I've got last question for everybody to answer. Maybe we'll start with Violet and kind of go down the line. So you've seen the Connect Effect campaign materials, and we've maybe learned a little bit more about fentanyl in the process. We talked a little bit when Brandon and I were presenting earlier about we're trying to balance the nature of sort of hope and concern. Some of this is pretty scary stuff and hard to think about. But there's also a lot of hopeful stuff that we're trying to showcase. So I'm curious from you all, just in your lives as you navigate this, not just about the Connect Effect, but substances and mental health. What still concerns you, but what also gives you hope for your future and your peers and your friends?
What concerns me is that a lot of kids and younger people, they are so scared to talk to their parents that they'll just let it all happen and give up. And what I'm hopeful for is that is becoming less of a percentage each day.
Awesome. Thank you. Ella.
My concern is basically the same thing as hers.
You want to? We'll come back to you.
So what scares me is going throughout high school, you hear, at my school, they are educating about fentanyl. Last year we had an assembly that was an hour long, and the whole hour documentary on fentanyl was using scare tactics. And so it was really scary to think about, if any of my friends tried drugs one time, that they could overdose. But I think that knowing the percentage of the data that you guys have done and the research that you guys have done, that the percentage of youth and peers taking that is actually way lower than it is, and then learning that there is Narcan is something that you can do about it. and then letting the information spread.
Awesome, thank you. All right, Ellen.
I think my biggest concern is that fentanyl and drugs are just so readily available to youth on social media platforms. However, I think what gives me hope is websites like the Connect Effect and how Western Colorado Health Education Center does outreach tables at schools and at kids events. It just makes everything more readily available for the good side.
Takes that effort at a local level and that face-to-face communication, absolutely. Kennedy?
What concerns me is I just have a feeling that most people, like parents, adults, don't understand that they can just lose their kid like in an instant because they're kids, and just everybody doesn't understand that like just as much of a grain of salt as a drug like fentanyl can just take you away in an instant. And so what I kind of hope is that everybody understands that and kind of just lets everybody know, because like from personal, you don't think that your friend is gonna take it, but from personal experience, like knowing somebody so close that I never in a million years would have thought that was gonna do that, and like they had to pump her stomach and all that. So just watching your kids and like preaching it to them that not to take that, because they need to know the consequences of what's gonna happen.
Yeah, so what concerns me most about fentanyl is just really the fact that only a few grains can become so deadly. And really just the guilt and the grief that's left behind in the family, speaking on personal matters, it's just so great. So that's what frightens me most about fentanyl, is the fact that so little can do so much. However, what gives me hope that me and my peers will not partake in this is just the fact that we've been so exposed to substance abuse as a whole. So just the fact that we're starting to have discussions such as these is just really great. So, it gives me hope that this can be the generation to make rising numbers of deaths begin to fall.
That's awesome. Ella, did you come up with a hope? We're good. I wanted to say thank you to these 6 young people. If you can give them a big round of applause. It takes a ton of courage to sit up in front of your peers, much less a room full and an auditorium full of adults, to do this. And sometimes it's your very first time doing something like that. And I appreciate you all being an awesome audience, but these guys spent the time, they researched this, they thought about it, and I think they had some really thoughtful things to say that I hope you all will take back with you to your communities. If you have questions for any of these young people, we're gonna do a group picture outside as the next session's getting going, so we keep things moving, but certainly would welcome the opportunity to engage with any of them. And one more quick round of applause. Thank you guys.
And I just wanted to do a shout out to Ella. I just want to say you give me hope. So your age, I would not have had the confidence to get up on a stage, and you're there, and I'm just so impressed with all of you. You did an amazing job, and you all give me hope. So thank you.